So what do we have here? Well, this is an item that came in just yesterday. This is a eBay purchase. I don't usually buy too many things on eBay, but this particular item is something that I had wanted for a while, and it was one of those things that was usually it kept coming up on eBay kind of expensive. I kept waiting for a deal on one of these to pop up, so I got notified that a new listing popped up for one of these, and I looked at it, and lo and behold, it came up with actually a pretty decent starting bid price. A lot of these, when they come up as buy it nows, and usually the buy it now price is pretty high. So typically the best price I've seen on one of these has been about 150 bucks. This one came up with a starting price of $99.99, 100 bucks, or you can make an offer. And the way that works, that's kind of a newer thing on eBay. The way that works is you can either elect to put in a initial starting bid of the $99.99 and then take your chances and see whether or not somebody outbids you, and you can get into a bidding war, or you can put in an offer, and the offer's got to be something above the starting price, and hopefully it's a good enough offer that the person will take the money, accept it, and then the auction immediately ends and it turns into like it basically converts into a buy it now at that price. So I looked at it and I said, geez, they wanted $14 and change shipping, call it 15 bucks shipping. I said, if I put in an offer of 115 bucks and I pay the shipping, I'll be into this for like 130 bucks, which is better than some of the best deals I've seen on these in a while. So I took a chance, threw the bid out there, and it was accepted almost immediately. So I'm happy to say that I am now the proud owner of, well, hopefully the proud owner of, well, I'm glad to see they double boxed it. This has got some weight to it. That is why, actually, interesting, this is a regional rate box A. My local post office does not have regional rate box A's. I think maybe because of the region I'm in, the Northeast. We have box B's. But sometimes the regional rate boxes actually give you a better price than the than the flat rate. It's an Aloris tool post. To be precise, it is an Aloris CXA sized tool post. I was beginning to think they forgot to ship the handle because it wasn't in the big box separate from this, and I'm like, the handle's not going to fit in that. But look at this handle. It's a stubby little sucker. This can't be the normal handle that these come with. I wonder if Aloris offers a stubby handle for these. Some people actually like the short handles. I've seen short handles before. I just thought somebody modified their handle to be short, but maybe they actually offer short handles. So let's check it out. So it is according to the little plaque here, which is falling off. I'm gonna make sure we don't lose that. It's a CXA. We get a little bit of beating there, but the wedge looks like it's in pretty darn good shape. Top looks good. So we're missing the T-nut, which that's okay, because the odds are that if it did come with a T-nut, it very well may have come with a T-nut that doesn't fit my lathe's compound anyways. So we're gonna have to make a T-nut for it. Or actually I could just reuse the T-nut that I've got on that lathe. So why do I have this? The reason why I have this is because I got a really good deal on a couple of CA tool posts, Aloris CA tool posts, which is the next size up from this. So I've been using a CA tool post on my 14-inch swing lathe, and it's actually too big for that lathe. The CA is for like 16 to 20-inch swing. So I have to lower the holders down. I have to adjust the holders so that they basically are running kind of low on the tool post to compensate for that that height. And it's a big bulky tool post. That's not necessarily the bad thing. That's mainly just the fact that I have to mess with the adjustment on it to make it work. I have a BXA that I've had for a while. I got a really good deal on that. I scored that for $50 at a flea market. An Aloris, original Aloris BXA in excellent condition. Problem is the BXA is for like 10 to 12 inch swing lathes, and the problem with the BXA is it's a little too small for my 14-inch lathe. So this CXA should be the perfect size. I think this is for 14 to 16-inch swing. Should be the perfect size for my Vernon Lathe. So that's why I wanted it. I've already got, now this is no holders, this is just a tool post, but that's still a great price. I've already been holding on to and stockpiling holders as I buy them on the cheap, in preparation for the day when I would actually get, oh, that's nice and smooth too, in preparation for the day when I actually would get a nice CXA tool post. So here's that BXA that I've had for a while. I didn't even clean it after I bought it. I just threw it in a drawer. It's been kicking around here forever since. I even kept the price on here. This is what was on it at the flea market. I may have even gotten this for less because this was marked 50. I don't even remember if I paid the full 50. Probably did. I was probably so excited to score this. But anyways, this is actually in really good shape other than being dirty. But for some reason, oddly enough, the badge here is beat to hell. But it is a BXA, and it is an original Aloris. Under this dirt and grime here, there's an Aloris logo, which you can actually see on this one. It is right there. So if the badge is missing on these, you can always check on the top corner here for this Aloris logo. So this is the BXA next to the CXA, just to give you a size comparison. It doesn't look, it's kind of deceiving. It doesn't look like much of a difference, but it actually is. And then the odd thing is the next size up from this is what I've got on the lathe now is actually a CA. So you would think it would go BXA, CXA, DXA. But what it does is it goes CXA, actually AXA, which I don't have anymore because I sold that one and I didn't need it. The BXA, the CXA, the CA, and then I think it goes to DA. So that's a really big tool post. Another weird thing about these tool posts, it must be because what's popular increases demand. On the used market, I noticed that the CXAs tend to command higher prices. I've even seen CAs for less money than these CXAs. So go figure. So here's my CA tool post, and you can actually see the way I got this holder on here. There's a big space between the top here and the top of the holder. So this should not be riding as low as it is. In this particular case, it actually doesn't work out too badly because of the way that I've got this holder in here for a carbide indexable cutter. I could still actually get this on the center line without having to drop this down. But sometimes I'll have a different tool in there, like especially like a boring bar, and then I can run into problems. So what I want to do is I want to change out this so that we can get a more sensible size tool post on here. And I'm thinking right now I'm not going to be able to use the T-nut that's in there because the T-nut that I made for this is going to be sized for this threaded rod, which I'm sure is going to be larger in diameter than the one on the other tool post. And one last look at the three sizes side by side against BXA, CXA, CA. Yep. Found one of my CXA holders that I've been holding on to. And I can tell already this is going to be a much better fit. It's not going to be as bulky over here too. Gives me a little more clearance. So looks like all I got to do now is make myself make myself a new T-nut. I have to say the only regret that I have with switching this back out from the CA is holders. I have quite a few holders with the CA. I started to stockpile some of the CXA holders, but with this thing, when I bought it, I don't think it came with any holders, but then I found somebody on one of the websites that was unloading some holders, and I got them very reasonably priced. And one of the holders I did get originally with this was this one right here. This is a CA35 genuine Aloris holder, and what this actually is, this is for a drill chuck. So the idea was there was a way to mount a drill chuck on here, and what that gave you was that gave you a drill chuck on the tool post instead of in the tailstock. But the drill chuck that goes on here is prohibitively expensive. That's why I never ended up getting one. Also, I knew that I was going to probably at some point change this out anyways. But this is the one I'm really going to miss. This I bought from somebody online. This is a CA71 genuine Aloris parting blade holder. And it uses these Aloris 71-250-2-C2 parting blades. Why am I so chagrined about losing this? Because when I bought that holder from the guy, it included this whole stack of brand new parting blades. So they actually hold up really well. And I'm going to miss these. I'm sure I'll get a CXA parting blade holder at some point. Just out of curiosity, I decided to Google that part number because I was curious to see whether or not there was a CXA holder that would hold these. I didn't think they would be because they're kind of tall. And what I found is they are still on the Aloris website. Look at this. The list price on these, just these blades, is $102.50 a piece. It says fits CA, DA, and EA. This size tool post and the two sizes up from this have holders that would support these blades. It says for cutting aluminum and stainless steel. So it turns out I've been using these wrong anyways, because I've been using these almost always on steel. I bet you that C2 designation has something to do with it. If memory serves me, I think that has something to do with the brittleness of the carbide, maybe? I don't know. Well, anyways, so yeah, it looks like I'm going to have to send these down the road. So before I can use this new CXA tool holder on my lathe, I'm going to have to make a new T-nut. Decided I'd go old school here for my measuring technique on this. If you have ever had a chance to read the book, How to Run a Lathe, which was issued by South Bend, I forget who the authors were. There's a lot of measuring practices in there that are described old school stuff, using things like calipers and scales. And the interesting thing about it was they talk about the level of accuracy that you can obtain with something like this. Accuracy being a relative term, right? But like using these calipers in the manner that I'm using, these inside calipers, you know, a lot of it has to do with having a good feel for how much drag there is on there, because these are spring loaded. And then using some magnification if necessary, and holding it up against a regular machinist scale, can actually get a pretty accurate measurement. If I aim for 2 1/8, which is, what is that? 2.125, right? 2 inches and 125 thousandths. If I aim for that, that should give me enough clearance for this to ride in here smoothly. I don't want it too tight. I don't want it hard to, if I want to reposition the tool post, I want to be able to slide it back and forth without too much difficulty. So 2 1/8 is my major dimension there width-wise. Here, I can just use my scale. So I can see that it's going to be 1.5 inches here. So 2 1/8, 1.5, and the last is my depth. And it's just over an inch. I mean a hair over an inch. And I don't want that to be too tight in there, so we can use an inch. 2 1/8, 1.5, 1 inch. So I was looking through my scrap bin and came across this piece of steel right here. It's actually 2 pieces of steel that were made for some purpose. I'm not sure what this was. It's got a little bit of a step to it here, but I'm not too concerned. I don't know what it was for, so I don't mind taking it apart. It's got a couple of recessed cap screws in here, but why I want to use this is because this thing is just a hair over 2 inches, not quite the 2 1/8, but that'll work. And it's just a hair under, I mean a real hair under 1 inch. And that's actually, now that I think of it, that's actually where it's got the step. At its max diameter, it is 1 inch, so I'm liking that. Never hurts to make a little drawing, right? Just so you can kind of keep track of what the hell you're doing. And then sometimes you still don't pull it off. So just made a drawing here. We're going to look at this as a cross section here. So I'm going to be essentially milling out a section here and a section here, okay, to create the T profile. And we're gonna, let's see, we'll put a dimension up here. We'll call this the overall dimension width, which we're gonna not change. We're gonna just live with what's here, which is just a hair over 2 inches. So I'm just gonna put a 2 point for right now, and in a moment I'm going to get an exact measurement because I'm going to want to do some math. Because what I want to do is I want to take off enough from this overall dimension to leave me with a dimension from here to here of 1.5 inches. And ideally I want this section, this 1.5 inch section, to be centered on this section. In other words, I want to take off enough to end up with 1.5 inches here, while at the same time keeping this dimension, which we'll call X, as the same as this dimension. So we'll also call that X. All right. So all I have to do is get the exact dimension of this, subtract this, and then take what I end up with for a remainder on that and divide it by 2, and that'll give me my 2 dimensions here and here. So I'll take my calipers and whoops, don't want the length. Alright, so I take my calipers and I end up with just double check this, there we go. It's 79 thousandths over the 2 inches. So I'm gonna make it, say it's 80 thousandths over the 2 inches, just to make my life easy. So that makes this 2.80. 1.5 from 2.80, 1.3, correct? 1.30, right? 1.30 divided by 2 is going to be 0.65. Oop, I almost put 6.65. I meant 0.065, 65 thousandths. 0.065, yeah. 650 thousandths would be bad. Of course, I'm pretty sure I would spot that. Something going really wrong there real quick. All right, so take 65 thousandths off each side, and then we've got to figure out That's right, our depth here. What is this dimension going to be? You know what? I think I forgot to take that measurement when I was over there at the lathe. Well, I tell you, if I went with 1/2 inch, I would probably be just fine. But it's a little bit taller than 1/2 inch in that section right there. I don't want it too tight. I want it to move easily, so I think I'm going to use 0.010 over 1/2 inch, so 5/10. So I'm looking for this dimension to be 5/10. So I could do this a couple of ways. I could, mill this, rough mill this out, and then put a depth gauge on here down to the top of the parallel that I'm going to have this sitting on in the vise, and I could just see how much more I have to go to get to 5/10. The other thing I'd like to do is I'd love to work off the top of this as a reference point, and then just go down however much I need to go down to leave 5/10 here. Again, I've got to take this dimension from here to here, the overall height of this thing, subtract 5/10, and that will give me this dimension right here, how deep this needs to be. Now I could just use 1 inch, right? Well, the problem is this isn't exactly 1 inch, and it's got this little step here. So I could put this in there, and my first operation is I could just face this thing, right? But I really don't want to make this any thinner, and I don't really care about this step being on top here. It's not going to cause a problem for me, I don't think. The reality is the tool post sits on top of those flats on the top of the compound. What I'll do is I'll just take the exact measurement of this, and when I say exact, I mean, it's 987.5. Let's call it 990. So 990 minus 5/10, 480. 0.480. So I want this to be 0.480. Time to make some chips. I'm not going to get too fancy here and use a edge finder to find the edge and use that to locate the cutter. All I'm going to do is I'm going to touch off on the very top of this, which will make a unsightly mark on the top here that nobody's ever going to see, so I'm not going to care about. And then I'll raise the knee to the depth of cut that I want to get, short a few thousandths so I can do a finish pass. And then I'll do the same thing. I'll touch off on the front here with the cutter, and again I'll move the cutter in the distance that I want, take a full depth of cut. Basically I'm going to take this all in one pass except for just a few thou for cleanup. I'm going to leave myself 10 thou for a finish pass. So I raise the knee 470 thousandths, and I lock the knee. Hey, you know what I forgot to do? This wonderful block of steel that I found, I forgot to check to see if this is hardened. I think A, it is hardened, and I think B, I just cooked my end mill. Yep, sounds pretty hard to me. Alright, that hardened steel was obviously a mistake. So I found this block here. This isn't hardened, and this looks like free machining steel. So I'm going to want to remove all of this metal up here down to here. I probably should put a roughing end mill in there. 21 thousandths. I'm going to leave on there. I'll do my final cleanups with a without the roughing end mill, with a regular end mill. Give a better finish. Not that this really has to look pretty. Hole number one. Now we're cooking.
I can smell it.
Yeah, cooking with oil. Okay, we're probably going to start slowing it down now. Go too fast, overheat the drill, and the tip of the drill will lose temper. And then it'll dull, like, immediately. Oh!
Went all the way through to the...
Yeah, when it breaks through the other side, it gets a little grabby. Made my variable speed clutch mechanism up there probably slip. That's probably what that noise was. That's, at least, that's what I hope it was.
Or your engine.
My engine cooked. I don't think we call electric motors engines.
Okay, motor.
Oh no, see, I was just complaining about that this wasn't getting tight enough, and now I can't undo it. How do you like that? Oh, you kidding me? Are you killing me?
Time for pliers.
No, I'm gonna have to use the spindle lock to lock this darn thing. There we go. Alright, you remember where this goes?
Yes.
Okay. Well, let's see, I was going to have to use the spindle lock anyways to take this out. Because you're right, it's time to change. I do not have a straight shank drill bit, the correct tap drill size for the 3/4 16-inch tap that I need to use to make the threads for our lovely stud post for the tool post. So I did find a 43/64 drill bit, which is actually, that gives 100% thread contact, or whatever you call it on the thread chart there. So this is going to be a tight fit, but I don't really mind that because that'll help keep the thing from unscrewing from the T-nut. Once I basically screw that thread into that T-nut, I'm not going to want to have to take it off again for a long, long time, unless I decide to move that tool post to another lathe. So I'm willing to live with the 43/64. The problem was the only one I even had at all was in Morse taper. As luck would have it, of the only two R8 to Morse taper adapters that I own, I had one for this, which I think is in Morse taper 2. So,
Lower the cable.
joy.
2 to 1.
Yeah. This one, we're gonna go slow. Low and slow. Yeah.
Both sit at the same time.
Yeah. This is why I wish I gotta fix the low range on this, because I have to use the VFD to slow it down. And I gotta take the spindle lock off, moron.
Are you sure? Okay. You might need this.
Yeah. Okay. Get the spindle lock off now, that would help. And we're trying to slow it down even more. That's 30 hertz. It's over, Johnny. We're through. All right, I got my tap in there, 3/4 16 tap, my tap wrench, tap follower, and a collet. It's all manual now. Now, I gotta set up some I gotta go and look what I've got for some holders that'll fit in these smaller sizes. I could mill these down to fit in here, but I think I have some that'll fit here. All right, I'm getting ready to set the height of my cutting edge here, and first thing I want to do is I want to square this. So what I want is I want this front face here to be parallel to the center line of the spindle, or this face perpendicular, whichever you choose. So the easiest way for me to do that, down and dirty quick way of doing that, is to just take this face right here on the left hand side of the tool post, because this is all square, and run it in up against this flat area right here on the chuck, because this is perpendicular to that spindle. Oh, I see what's happening. I'm hitting the chuck jaw with the compound. There we go. Sometimes, for whatever reason, I can't get this face to come up here because there's something interfering with the fit, especially on that my previous tool post, which was oversized for this application. I couldn't get in there. So what I would do is I'd just grab a 1, 2, 3 block, and I'd stick it right in there, hold it up against here, and run it right up against the block. It does the same thing. Now that I've got this set. Now I want to set my tool height. There's any number of different methods people have to do this, but I'm going to show you what is not necessarily the most accurate method, but it's a quick and easy method to do. Alright, so I mounted a 1/2 inch gauge pin. I'm sorry, it's not a gauge pin, it's a dowel pin, but it's 1/2 inch diameter. And it's got a nice finely ground smooth surface on it, which I think helps with this exercise. And I'm just going to take a scale and bring it in here and just lightly pinch it in there. Okay, and now the trick to this is you need to sight down the line. I just stand behind the tailstock and sight down the center line of the tailstock, looking at the chuck, and see whether or not this is perpendicular or vertical. Doesn't look too bad. The top is leaning back towards me a little bit, which would indicate that right now the point is just a little too low. So I'm going to back off, unlock, give this just like a 1/8 of a turn, relock, and check again. That looks really good to me. Maybe from the angle that the camera's looking at it, it might have still looked crooked, but when you sight down the center line, that's when you're going to get the best view. So now that I've got this set, what I want to do is I want to run this nut down, which is a locking nut, and that's going to keep this little hand wheel on here from being accidentally rotated when taking this on and off the tool post. Wow, my adjustable wrench just jammed. This is a super adjustable Williams brand adjustable wrench, and it just locked up. I cannot get this to turn. That is, I've never ever had that happen to me on an adjustable wrench ever. Huh. Well, so much for that. And let's see, relock this and give it one more quick check. Looks good. Hey, how many of you guys were just watching me complain about this Williams adjustable wrench and laughing your butts off because you knew what I didn't know about this wrench and just learned? I thought it was weird that this thing was completely locked up. And it turns out this wrench has a feature I've never seen on an adjustable wrench before. This pin right here, this is a button. You press this in and it locks the setting of the wrench. How many times have I used an adjustable wrench in the past and been in a situation where I set it for one size, you know, and then used it just a couple of times and found that it had gone out of adjustment. And so this, by design, has a button you can set, and that will push in and it locks this wheel so that it can't fall out of adjustment. How cool is that? This just went from what I thought was being a broken wrench to, well, my favorite new adjustable wrench because it has that feature. So you just push this pin down here and it unlocks, and push it in on the bottom to lock it like that. Cool beans. Alright, so that's going to conclude this video. No, it's not. I forgot I was going to do a test cut. Dummy. But I need some safety glasses. Cool beans. Alright, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you're not already a subscriber, I hope you'll consider subscribing, and if you like what you see in this video, please hit the like button. Take care.